Now that the Modern Warfare 3 beta has concluded, I want to give my opinion on the game and what I hope to see from Sledgehammer in the future. I'm going to break this video down into a few sections, what the game does well, what the game can improve on, and at the end, I'm going to talk about a few final thoughts that could make or break the game for me. If you're new to the channel, I'll be completely honest with you, me and my subscribers, we're big Treyarch fans, so in many ways that shapes the lens I view Call of Duty from, since I prefer a much more fast-paced arcade-style shooter. I want to start off with a few core gameplay features that we saw return that I don't even want to put in the good category because they should just be standard features for Call of Duty. The fact that Infinity Ward took them away and Sledgehammer is giving them back upsets me. Anyway, we have a proper functional minimap. This is arguably one of the most important features in Call of Duty because it controls the pace of the game as well as the weapon balance. In Modern Warfare 3, if you fire an unsuppressed weapon, a red dot will appear on the minimap. This is something that should never change. If you're one of the people who complains about this, go play a different game. I'm not here to coddle you, tell you your feelings are valid. Call of Duty and my content are not for you. Go play Sentinel Warfare 2, Rainbow Six Siege, or any other tactical game. If you're still here, do me a favor, drop a like on this video to arrest Infinity Ward for ruining Call of Duty. Another basic feature that should just never be taken away, map voting. Why in the world was this ever removed? It makes no sense, it doesn't affect match times, or the precious matchmaking algorithm. So why are they taking choice away from players? The map design is obviously decent, considering these are some of the most famous maps from the original Modern Warfare 2, you know, the good one. I'm curious to see how the other maps play when the game fully launches. There have been times during the beta where all the maps felt a little bit like shipment, you know? Just chaos everywhere. And I think it's for a few reasons that I'll dive into later. All in all, the maps are good. The perk system is very solid. They've reworked the perks into gear, but for all intents and purposes, they function exactly the same, and I think that's fine. There are clear benefits to using them, and they're all separated into appropriate categories. The way these perks are being handled, we're getting a taste of the old Pick 10 system, which leads me to the next part, the gunsmith. I'm not sure if it'll be the same in the full launch of the game, but in the beta, it seemed much more streamlined and straightforward compared to Modern Warfare 2. I'm glad they've added some new attachments, and at this time, there are no options for weapon tuning, and I hope that it stays this way. I get the idea of weapon tuning, but it's just too much sauce, man. Call of Duty is supposed to be a simple to pick up arcade shooter, and building out your gun shouldn't require somebody to look up 10 YouTube videos to build a gun that works. Now, the TTK is a double-edged sword here. If you've been following me on the channel for a bit, you know I'm a big fan of a longer time to kill. That's why I enjoy games like Apex Legends and Black Ops 4 so much. Getting into real gunfights where you have to hit your shots over a longer period of time. In a lot of ways, the time to kill is perfect, but there are a few issues I want to address later in the video under the things to improve on category. Next, we have to talk about the movement. Sledgehammer and Call of Duty have shifted much of their marketing to promoting movement and slide canceling, which is in complete contrast to the last few years. So what do I think about the movement? I think it's a massive improvement over the previous title. Everything feels fast-paced, smooth, fluid, and I don't feel like my character is stuck in wet cement and carrying 100 pounds of gear. Now, if I'm nitpicking, I'd much prefer the tac sprint be removed completely and that they just increase the base sprint speed like we had in Cold War and Black Ops 4. But I know there's zero chance of that happening, so I'll make do. It's not my preferred movement, but I can make it work since it's fast and fluid. They did reduce the delay when you come out of the slide and start sprinting again, but honestly, I think they should just remove that delay altogether. Overall, the movement's fine, and I hope these changes get put into Warzone. I'd love to be back on the Warzone grind, but at the moment, the game is just so boring to me. Last thing on this list, I want to talk about the Breacher drone. I've seen a lot of people complaining about it being overpowered, even going as far as to say it should be a kill streak, and I agreed with that sentiment at first, but the more that I played the beta and got used to it, I was able to just shoot it down with no issues. I think it's fine and a great addition to the lethal equipment slot. Alright, so that wraps up all the positive things. Before we jump into the things to improve on, let me know in the comment section what your favorite or most hated part of the Modern Warfare 3 beta was. Alright, the moment you've all been waiting for, you want to hear me shit talk the game. I'm going to frame this section as things that need to be worked on and be a little bit more positive. Sledgehammer seems to be making the changes the community wants, and they've been communicating much better than Infinity Ward, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and I'll be nice. First on the list, we gotta get the spawns fixed. I'm not sure why this is an issue after 20 plus years of Call of Duty, especially when this is the third time we've seen some of these maps. It's a big part of what made the game feel weird and crazy during the beta, and I couldn't quite figure out the logic of the spawns or the spawn flips. Never in my life have I spawned into bullets so many times. I hope Sledgehammer can get this ironed out for the full launch of the game, but I'm a little bit worried how the rest of the maps that weren't in the beta are gonna play. Next, we've got the counter UAV. I don't know if it's just me, but this thing seems to last forever. I played a match on Rust where the enemy team had a counter UAV up for literally the entire match. The duration of the counter UAV needs to at least be cut in half. I was also really struggling to realize if the enemy team had a UAV up or not. In Cold War, it's super obvious because there's literally a sound of a plane flying in the background, letting you know the enemy team has a UAV or counter UAV up. Next, let's revisit the time to kill. I said earlier in the video that it was perfect, and it's great in close to medium range gunfights. But those engagements at any real distance, hell, even medium range gunfights, it takes like 10 plus bullets to kill someone with an AR. And I'm fine with a long time to kill, like I said, I prefer it, but we gotta reel it in just a little bit at those longer to medium range gunfights. Especially if you weren't using the meta weapons, the weapon balance in the beta definitely needs a little work for launch. The ACR, or I think it was called the MCW in the beta, just absolutely outshined almost every other weapon, except for maybe the BAS-B. I tried so hard to use other ARs just to keep it interesting, but the BAS-B and the ACR were really the only two weapons that were able to compete. And the snipers were also way too strong. I'm all for quickscoping, I'm all for one-shot kill snipers in the multiplayer, but I swear half these people sniping could land a foot shot and it would just kill you. Especially over distance where almost no other weapon could even come close to competing with snipers. The fire rates on them also seem to be way too fast. If a sniper is going to be strong, there needs to be some trade-offs with either mobility, one-shot kill potential requiring accuracy, or the fire rate. And as it stands in the beta, snipers were kind of good at everything. While the pacing of Modern Warfare 3 is pretty good, I think the health regen and reload speeds were a bit on the slow side. When you speed up the pace of the game, which is a good thing, you also have to speed up the other features along with it. With a longer time to kill, you have to shoot more bullets and you find yourself reloading more often, which is fine, but we gotta reduce the reload speeds a little bit to keep pace with the game, especially because you can't sprint while reloading. The health regen could also be a touch quicker. With how fast players can get to you, I found myself in a lot of situations where I would get a kill, then try to back out of the fight and heal, and players would always find a way to get to me before I was back at full health. Next, I want to talk about the sightlines, visibility, and how the maps played. While I really like the maps, it's obvious that way back in 2009, they weren't made for the type of gameplay that we have in the Modern Warfare 3 beta. There are a lot of sightlines where you can see across most of the map. Now, I'm not a fan of safe spaces at all, but your positioning should matter, and there are times where there are just too many places that you can get shot from, and there's nowhere that you can take cover. I believe there are new areas that you can climb and parkour where you couldn't back in the day, and it's really cool that you can experience the maps in a new ways and it keeps the gameplay fresh. But some of those spots that you can climb on give you just a little bit too much of an advantage. There also seems to be an issue with visibility in this game. There's just something about the Infinity Ward engine that makes everything have a little bit of haze over it. It was a problem back in 2019, and tons of YouTubers were making NVIDIA filter guides on how to make your game look good on PC. The haze makes everything kind of blend together and can make enemies really difficult to spot. I also think they need to add a shadow or a small light source to each player so they stand out a little bit better from the background. Visibility always seems to be an issue with this engine, and while everyone seems to like it, it's one of the reasons I hate it, and I'm really worried about Treyarch being forced to switch to it for their game in 2024. The last few things I want to talk about are small, but I want to go over them quickly. Right now, if you're on mouse and keyboard like myself, nerf aim assist. There's something that feels a little bit off when aiming. It feels like my reticle kind of draws a circle over my target, and I think it's because the weapon is rotating or twisting a bit with the recoil. The red dots on the minimap seem to stick around for a long time after an enemy player is already killed, and it makes it really confusing. I found myself chasing ghost dots a lot, but maybe it's just a skill issue and I'm missing something. Last thing on the list is something about this game gave me and all my friends just a bit of motion sickness. I don't know if it's because the game is too fast in those close quarters areas or something else that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Overall, Modern Warfare 3 is definitely headed in the right direction. I'm not going to say that Call of Duty's back. I'm not going to recommend that you pre-order it. I remember back when the Modern Warfare 2 beta was out, by the time the full game launched, Infinity Ward had nerfed so many of the things that were good in the beta, and that makes me a little bit skeptical. If Sledgehammer delivers good original maps throughout the lifecycle of this game, continues to communicate with the fans, implement the changes we're asking for, this year has a lot of potential and could be one of the best years in the Call of Duty franchise. The contrast between Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 makes it so obvious that focusing on realism just hurts the game. If you want to check out my video on why realism ruins first-person shooter games, click here.